Okay, so we are ready to start. I wanted to start by saying Happy New Year, everyone. 2024, I hope, is going to be the best year ever. Can we say ever? Ever, ever, especially when we are able to access information and change our lives for the positive. That is what we want for everyone. So 2024, I hope for each and every one of you is an awesome year with less anxiety, less OCD if you are living with OCD as well, and less depression, because those three can sometimes go hand in hand, as I experienced for many years. And now I am proud to say that I'm out there serving other people that have gone through or going through similar things that I've gone through. So let me be your inspiration. Let me be your hope that things can and will change. So let's kick off 2024 with our first Q&A. Our Q&A, for those of you who are new to meeting with us, we meet every first Monday of the month, regardless of what day it falls on. Today happened to fall on New Year's Day, but I thought it was important that we set our goals and aspirations and our inspirations for 2024 literally from day one of the year. So for those who are just joining us for the first time, our Q&A is an opportunity to answer questions directly related to different themes. We focus mostly here at the OCD Coach team, we focus on anxiety, depression, and obsessive compulsive disorder. And sometimes we will talk about one particular subject. So this evening is actually dedicated to people living with anxiety, and there's very few people that I can think of that does not have some level of anxiety. Now, the difference between a normal, if you want to use the word normal level of anxiety versus too much anxiety, is the way it impacts our day-to-day life and how it trickles into different aspects of our life, anywhere from our work to our personal to our family, social events, you name it. Anxiety can be part of each and every one of those aspects of our life. So tonight we are going to address some questions that were asked by our audience, and also some questions that we wanted to put out there that we feel is really important to talk about when it relates to anxiety. So let's get started. Our Zoom link is here. Our Zoom link is always the same link, so you don't have to worry about having a different Zoom link from month to month. So thank you for being here. Now, the first question is a question that came to us asking, how can I manage anxiety in the workplace or during job interviews? This is great. I think the anxiety, just reading this question, it's two-part, it's twofold. The anxiety that one may trigger in a workplace versus a job interview might be very opposite ends of the continuum. So say, for example, if you work in a place that you feel comfortable in, you've been there, you know the routine, it may not be as much anxiety provoking as it is going into a new environment where you don't know the questions that are going to be asked of you. You're in there applying for a job that ideally you want to be able to get. So that could cause a lot of extra anxiety on you as a person, even if you're not normally feeling anxious. Job interviews for me are very anxiety provoking. So sometimes it's good to write down questions in advance when you're going to a job interview, or prepare in advance. So here are some tips. Preparation is key. And also being able to, and what I mean by preparation is key, more along the lines of what I was just talking about, where we prepare, maybe writing a few certain qualities about yourself down, writing a few things that you may want to ask the employer that's interviewing you, just so that you can visibly see it. It's a visible tool that you can maybe put on a sticky and take it into the interview with you, because sometimes when we're anxious, we draw blanks and we become mentally just frozen. And I know that most of you can relate to that. Another way we can help our anxiety is to practice deep breathing techniques and relaxation techniques. I know we've talked about this in the past, and a lot of times when I'm out speaking, I actually want to allocate a certain amount of time towards this, because it's important that we learn and utilize those tools in the comfort of our home so that we can draw on them when we're out in public or in environments where we're starting to escalate with our anxiety. Another one is positive visualization. So maybe you're picturing yourself on a beach, dipping your toes into the sand and the sun's coming down on you, or you're walking in the rain if that's something that you find therapeutic, or walking on the leaves in the fall. I love the sound of the crunching leaves with my bare feet. It's a beautiful feeling. So again, whatever you can visualize, it's going to bring calmness to you, not only physically, but mentally. And then focus on the present moment. Sometimes our thoughts will continuously race and it's really hard to get out of that loop. And so being able to just stop, even as part of the visualization, put a stop sign up or a checkered flag telling you to stop, or a red light, whatever it might be for you, to just stop your mind from thinking about that and being able to shift it to something new. So by shifting it to something new, you're actually focusing on the present moment, in the here and the now. So it might be looking at your scenery, your environment around you, picking out different colors or picking several colors out. I like to use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at 5 things in the room that are red, 4 that are orange, 3 that are green, 2 that are pink, and 1 that is black, or whatever colors you want to put in there. And by the time you get from the 5 to the 1 color scheme, you've already forgotten what you were worried about or anxious about. Another one is building a support system. This is huge. And it doesn't have to be an incredibly large support system. If you have 2 or 3 people in your arena helping to support you, that's plenty. I know that it's misleading. People are always wanting lots of likes and followers and supports, but honestly, you just need a couple real trustworthy people that you can count on in times of need. And then number 6 is develop coping strategies. These are very wide-based coping strategies. Sometimes people will journal, sometimes they'll be very vocal and reach out to people with their needs. There may be tools that they use in their tool trunk. As part of all my programs that I've created, I have a specific tool trunk allocated for the individual to be able to utilize, practice, and then retain those tools in their trunk for times of need. So we've got a lot of different ones that we're going to talk a little bit about later on. And then arriving early. Remember, this is specifically to interviews or even to the workplace, arriving early. If we're rushing, that causes more anxiety. We put that added stress on ourselves that isn't necessary if we are able to take our time. And even if it means setting the clock 15 minutes earlier in the morning to give yourself that time and grace to get going and arrive safely, not just early, but safe as well. And professional development, wanting to make sure that we're educated in our field, in our realm of work, and being able to take continuing education courses to reinforce the learning part, because we never stop learning, do we? We never stop growing, we never stop learning. And accept imperfections. You are good enough, you are enough right here and now. And even if we get a little bit better day by day, that's all we can ask for. We don't have to change our entire personality and know all the answers in the moment. We just need to know that we're working and striving for a little bit more knowledge and ability to cope day by day. And then seek feedback. This is really good because constructive criticism is a good thing. Often when people are criticized, they feel they are not worthy, or they feel that the other person doesn't appreciate or validate them. But I like to look at it like an opportunity to become better. If we are not getting feedback, then where is the opportunity for growth? So it's good to be able to get feedback as long as it's done in a kind and professional way. Now, the next question is, what strategies can help me overcome avoidance behaviors caused by anxiety? Now, for those of you who are wondering what avoidance behaviors are, it's exactly that. It's doing things to avoid having to confront with something. and our examples or answers will help. Overcoming avoidance behavior caused by anxiety involves adopting a multifaceted approach, meaning many different approaches that addresses both the cognitive and behavioral aspects of anxiety. So here are several strategies that can help you manage it. And they are awareness. Once we become aware, that's the very first step in being able to make change, is awareness. Once we're aware of anything in our life, then we can make the changes. And we have to accept, for some things, we may have to just accept the way things are. We need to expose ourselves to these fears gradually, not all at once, and we have to do it in a very systematic way. That's what I love about my programs for individuals, that it's very tailor-made to their needs. So we list all the avoidance behaviors while someone is living with anxiety or OCD or depression, and then we build a foundation and a hierarchy, a list of all those things. And then we also, at the same time, simultaneously, we're trying and we're able to restructure our cognition, the way we think and perceive the world, because now we are willing to confront it, face the fears, and be able to see them in a different light. And then the mindful and relaxation techniques are very helpful, and we need to set realistic goals. I know in the past on our sessions, we talked about SMART goals, being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So we need to set goals that we can achieve, and we need that support along the way. And behavioral activation, we have to be able to see it and be able to make the changes and accept professional guidance. So as a coach, this is the part where I feel responsible to make sure that I bring awareness to my clients, to make sure they are aware of what they're doing, such as avoidance behaviors, because sometimes they honestly don't even realize they're doing it. And give ourselves self-compassion, being kind. And if needed, we can work on considering medication. It could be a short-term or long-term solution, but sometimes it's necessary that people have to get on medication. And at the end of the month in January, on the last Wednesday of the month, January 31st, we are going to have at our gathering place, which we have every last Wednesday of the month, a guest speaker. And HJ is going to speak from his perspective as a community pharmacist and answer any questions you may have on the way of medication. And that can apply to anything as far as anxiety, OCD, or depression. The beauty is we often use the same medication to treat all three. So, okay, so the next question, can anxiety be triggered by certain life changes? And how can you navigate those transitions? Absolutely. Stress is a big determining factor if our anxiety is going to be high. And the stress can come in many different ways. It can even be positive stress. I know when I was getting married and diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, it was all happening simultaneously. And although I was really excited to be getting married, I also had a lot of anxiety about leaving home and leaving my mama. And up to that point, I cared for her, and I felt like I was abandoning her in some ways. So even good stress can cause anxiety. So here you've got some examples: relationships, new place, jobs, significant lifestyle shifts. They all can evoke feelings of uncertainty and stress. So again, we want to consider acknowledging them, even just bringing them out in front of us and acknowledging we are feeling anxious and validating your feelings. There's nothing better than being validated by yourself and by others when it comes to our feelings, and saying, you know, I'm wondering why I'm feeling this way. I often say that to myself when times are cycling, and sometimes I get a lot of anxiety. I ask myself that question: what's going on in my life right now to cause this anxiety? And looking from within. Seeking support helps the other person see it maybe from a more objective point of view. And by creating routines, that helps lower our anxiety because we already know in advance. We're planning in advance. Not everything. Life happens. Life hits us upside the back, and we don't always we can't plan on life events, but if we create a routine day in, day out, that can help reduce our anxiety. So setting realistic expectations and practicing those techniques. And you know what? There's a lot of things in the world we cannot control. So let's put our focus and energy on the things we can, and then challenging their negative thoughts towards ourselves and towards the world. And of course, we need to celebrate those small wins. When I'm working through the 10-week program or the accelerated program with clients, we are always making sure that we bring out the wins and instill the belief in them, because they really are troopers. I can only guide. I'm a coach. I can know what to ask. I can know what to suggest, but it's truly the people that are doing the hard work day in, day out that need to be acknowledged for their victories, small or large. And we need to stay connected, whether that's with friends, family, even workplace, with our family doctors. Stay connected with the people that matter in your life, and you know who those people are, and make them count. And embrace flexibility. Sometimes we're very rigid in our beliefs. So the next question, what are the potential effects of substance use and abuse? Great question, because a lot of times people will use substance to cope. It's a natural tendency to want to escape because the pain is so great with anxiety, and also abuse of it. If it continues if you see a pattern, how should I say this? We find that people may start out using it just as a way to cope, but then it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a necessity to be able to get through the day. So they can have profound effects on anxiety, both short-term and long-term. And these are ways how. They actually make our anxiety worse, because drugs and alcohol are a central nervous system depressant. They can also trigger panic attacks, interference with other medications, and lead to an actual substance-induced anxiety disorder. And it impairs our cognition, because our cognition is impaired from the drugs and alcohol. Dependency becomes the norm, and it's difficult if you're going through withdrawal. So we need to be able to reach the underlying issues. A lot of times we mask them by using, but what it does is it further agitates people, and it further contributes to the problem, because the problem doesn't go away. Even though we've tried to put a Band-Aid on it, it's just like putting a Band-Aid on a cut, right? It's still there underneath. So we need to deal with the underlying issues, and it can also impair our decisions and increase vulnerability to trauma. And just overall negative impact on the treatment when you're working with someone to try and get better. If you're using all the time, it can impact negatively on being able to overcome and reach your goals. And there's a cycle of escalation too, because people will become dependent on these drugs. Often people will also isolate themselves. Social isolation is a big one. So I hope that's been helpful. I will continue on with a few more questions. Feel free to ask or type in the chat if you have any concerns or questions, or you need clarity for any of these. So how can I communicate my needs to my partner or spouse regarding my anxiety? Or even your family for that matter? How do you communicate? It could be really difficult at times to express how you're feeling, but it's necessary. Our partners, our spouses need to know what we're going through, because your anxiety is crucial, your needs to your partner or spouse about your anxiety is crucial for building better understanding and support. So here's some of the things that you might want to consider. Want to have this conversation when the timing's right and in the right place. And be honest. You can even give examples, because that will help the other person understand it and bring some clarity to it. And direct language, and educate them about anxiety. I always tell people it's really hard. It really hurts me to see the family and all the loved ones sitting next to the client all of my programs usually involve a educational session. I'm almost make it a must, mandatory, because the person alone cannot get better by themselves. They need the people that surround them and love them to know parts and understand the illness and be able to know what to do and not to do to help out. Because I always say, if we just treat the person like just the client, then I've only done part of my job. So I really take the time and energy, however that might look like or take, to make sure the family is clear on what they can do and the expectations. Because it's not up to them to have all the answers. But as long as they have the willingness to want to learn, that's the main thing. And we need to identify triggers and warning signs. Sometimes by identifying a warning sign or a trigger, it can help prevent the anxiety from escalating. And there's no harm in asking the people that you spend the most of your time with, what's their perspective? How do they see you? What do they think that you could do to change things for the better? Or what do they think they could do to help you out during times of need? And so that can bring clarity for them to help you and also set boundaries, because sometimes we overstep the boundaries. We want people to do things for us to help us feel better, lower our anxiety instead of facing the fears. And that's not helpful. So if you see any of these, reassuring them of your commitment, you see these as helpful tips, you can be thinking right now going forward, what are some of these takeaways to be able to check in and say, okay, I've tried 1 and 4 and 6, and how is that working for me? Or you may want to take, 9 and 11 and check in regularly, set dates that you want to check in with each other. It's not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing process, and we need to be able to evaluate. So as a coach, I'm always checking in with my clients. I'm always evaluating how they're doing, where are their anxiety ratings, what can we work on next, what has been helpful or not helpful. And that's my role. That's my responsibility as a coach, to help guide. The next question, are there specific breathing exercises that can help alleviate anxiety symptoms? Great question. The answer is yes. The short answer is yes, but there's several effective breathing exercises. And these breathing exercises, the whole intent is to help promote relaxation and calming the nervous system down. Because remember, we talk about the fight, flight, or freeze. When we're anxious, our whole entire body is kicking into that danger zone that's reacting, the brain sending a signal to say there's danger. So our body is getting into that guarded high alert system. I did refer to it before as a fire alarm going off in our brain, but there's no fire. So here are some of the techniques that you can try. Diaphragmatic breathing. This is where you're breathing really deep belly breathing. I always say breathing in like you're breathing a bouquet of flowers, and breathing out like you're blowing out birthday cake candles. Another one is the 4-7-8 breathing. This is a relaxing breath. And we do the, in addition, we do the box breathing. Breathe in for 3 or 4, breathe out for 3 or 4, breathe in for 3 or 4, breathe out for 3 or 4. So again, one of these evenings we'll actually go into practicing some of these, but there's a lot of YouTube videos you can watch on each of these. Sorry, the box breathing is the square breathing. The relaxing breath is more about the counting. I'm sorry, I put those in the wrong order. Alternate nostril breathing is another one that you can try. Equal breathing, guided imagery breathing, where you actually have an app and a person on the app guiding you on how to breathe, when to breathe in, when to breathe out, and how to hold your breath. Those are all different techniques. So you can Google that for more information and see if there's something that you find interesting that you'd like to try. The next question is, what are grounding techniques and how can they help during times of heightened anxiety? Grounding techniques are really, really helpful in the right content, right in the right context. Deep breathing is one. This is where we focus on slow, deep breaths. They help regulate the nervous system, calming the body's physiological response. And it promotes relaxation and diverts the tension away from anxious thoughts, restoring a sense of control, like we talked about before. Mindful observations, this is engaging the senses by observing and describing the environment in detail. So it encourages a shift in focus. And you know what? A lot of these coping techniques are doing just that. They're shifting our mind, they're shifting our focus from internal worries more to external stimuli. So it promotes a sense of presence and awareness. And that's what grounding techniques are all about. If you think about the word grounding, just think of yourself anchored in the ground. You're solid, you feel stable. That's how I like to refer to it. Now, commonly recommended grounding techniques, another one is grounding through the senses, the five senses, to connect with the immediate surroundings. So by paying attention to these five specific senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. They can all allow us to redirect our attention away from anxiety and into the present moment. So you can ask yourself, let's just take a quick moment. I know there's a lot of material here, but let's do an example here while we're in this slide. So you can ask yourself, what am I seeing right now around me? Am I seeing the birds in nature? What are the sounds of sounding like they're chirping, they're flying around me? The touch, what do you touch? What are some of the touches around you? Maybe the touching of, if you can get close enough to a bird, maybe touching its skin, or touching the trees or the bark on the tree. A taste. What do you taste right now? Is there anything that you can taste? Or smell? Can you smell the fresh grass, the fresh smell of rain on the grass? These are all things that will help guide us into more into the present moment. And then progressive muscle relaxation, you sometimes use the acronym PMR, that's what it stands for. This is systematically tensing and then relaxing different muscle groups. So maybe clenching our hands into a fist for a few seconds and then releasing it. Then doing the same on the opposite hand. And then tightening up our abdomen and then releasing it, tightening up our legs, and so on, going through the whole body parts. It helps release the physical tension and promotes a sense of relaxation as well. In the overall sense of anxiety, we can count numbers. So we talked a bit about this earlier, focusing on counting or performing simple mathematical tasks. Engaging in numerical activities can shift away attention from anxious thoughts and bring a sense of order and structure. So affirmations is another good one, repeating positive statements to oneself. When I'm working as a coach with individuals, I often will address challenging our faulty belief systems, because a lot of what we talk about or what we tell ourselves is negative thoughts. And as I've said before, 70 to 80,000 thoughts coming through our brain every single day. We usually gravitate towards the negative ones. So we really have to work hard on repeating positive statements to oneself and challenging our negative ones. So affirmations can counter negative thoughts, providing more positive and empowering perspective. Visualization, like I said earlier, imagine a calm place, a safe place or scenario, and it can transport individuals mentally to a soothing environment. Again, reducing the anxiety and providing inner peace. Grounding objects. Here we hold or focus on a specific object with different textures. I don't know if any of you have seen the Alzheimer's blankets that they have in nursing homes now. The society actually, they make these mini quilts that are like lap quilts that people can lay on their laps, and they have different tactile sensations on them. So they may have a zipper or a round button or a piece of thread, or different things that are tactile, so that it helps anchor attention in the present moment and provides a tangible point of focus. They can actually tangibly see it and feel it and grab onto it. And for them, for a lot of people, that's very comforting. So those were the questions we had tonight. If there's anything that you have specific in the chat that you wanted to address, please feel free to do so. I'm just going to check the chat now, see if there's anything there. Okay, so that was a lot of information that I provided. I would like to invite you to join our private Facebook group by searching for OCD Private Coach. We just have 1 or 2 questions we ask you to make sure that you qualify to be in our group. It's private, so it's a safe place to share your experiences, questions, or concerns. And we're also on different social media platforms. And stay connected and informed on your journey to better mental health by being part of our groups, our social media platforms as well. Okay. And okay, so embrace a new chapter in 2024. How do we do this? Well, we've got some great news to start out your year. If you would like to purchase one of our books from our website, we can definitely help you with that. I've written a few books. We want to start with books for mental well-being, starting with this little small book that I designed and created called OCD Leaves Clues, Stop Obsessing, Start Overcoming. If you want to click with your phone on the scan to order, it will take you right to Amazon, where you can purchase it a paperback or a Kindle. Remember, the Kindle, you do not have to own a Kindle. You can purchase it and just read it off your laptop or tablet. So that's the first book. You can also purchase it, check it out on our website. And this is the book that I intended to armor, to shield you and help you start challenging and recognizing your OCD for what it truly is. Here in this book, it will help you get a glimpse into OCD and deal with the emotions that the thoughts bring on, and to challenge your faulty belief system. And this truly was a game changer for many people. And then my more recent book that I put out in the fall, which I'm happy to announce was the #1 bestseller Amazon as well, is titled OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And the subtitle is 6 Secrets to the Deliverance from OCD. And you can scan that if you like. That will also get you directly to the website. And this was a very transformative journey to break free from the chains of OCD, not only for myself, but a lot of what I've written in this book is showing my vulnerability in the way of what was going on in my mind, and all the anxiety and embarrassment, shame, and vulnerability that I had along with it. So if not only for people living with OCD, but for professionals that are working with people with OCD should really dive deeper into ways that they can help. This book really goes into that in depth, as well as understanding from individual's perspective. My own personal journals are in that book, and just the events that transpired over the course of my life are all part and encompass this book. So it is truly life-changing for myself and for others. So again, I want to thank you. I want to have the fireworks out for New Year's Day and throughout the year, because we got to shine the light on our victories and celebrate our wins. So remember, we are just an email away at www.theocdcoach.com. Our email is info@theocdcoach.com. And again, you can always call us at 204-295-4408. And please follow us and like us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you are thinking of anybody else that might be interested in our topics, in our website, in our information, books, whatever it is that we have a ample amount of things on our website that you can look and scroll through. Please share this with family or friends, anybody that you think might benefit from it. You just never know. So spread the word, and Our next session will be February 5th at 7 p.m., always Central Standard Time, and always the same link. But that's not it. If you want to send questions, here is a link to follow to send questions directly to myself or our team, and we'll be happy to answer them. So we will see you either on January 31st, that's a Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the gathering place, and or join us on our next session on February 5th. I'll meet you there.